I guess since the last time we met, we signed Williams Hooper, we signed Josh Thomas, Story Jackson. Also yesterday acquired Matthew Judon doing trade. We released a few players, which you guys probably know: Austin Mack, Sam Bourne, and Ryan Burns. From an injury standpoint, Zach Harris on the side right now, day-to-day, kind of with the oblique. We got Grant with a hammy. Dane still has the ankle, and Rook yesterday got a little shoulder, so he'll be out today, but he's day-to-day. And other than that, I'll open up questions.
Coach, what does getting Matthew Judon do for the defensive front and just adding a player of his stature in the league, four-time Pro Bowler?
You know, anytime you can add a dog, really, to your group and have him be able to come and be a part of that, that is exciting. I think we have excitement for that. I think he has excitement for that. I think a couple of our players that actually know him personally have excitement for that. His reputation precedes himself. You know, the Pro Bowl thing is impressive, but actually going out there and playing against this dog when he was in Baltimore when we were here in 2016, and I remember Mohamed Sanu having to sift him and said, "Man, I'm not doing that." And he said, "Let's spread this thing out, man. Let the big people block the big people, man." But having that type of recall from that type of a player and what he does and what he can bring to the table is always fun, particularly when you talk about adding to that group. You know, losing Trice was critical for us the week before, knowing he's out for the season, but being able to add him to Zoe and AK and Damone Harris and JSW and all those guys that have been out there working for us provides, you know, a quality player, dog mentality, potential game changer to your outfit.
Is your hope that this will be a long-term thing with Matthew, or do you cross that bridge when you come?
You know, I don't know. I hate to say for long term. We're talking about a 31-year-old player just in general, but when you get a guy the way we were able to acquire him, that's always fun. You get a guy with the ability to come in here and be a game record for you right now. You figure out those things. I have one real key factor. We did that out in L.A. with Vaughn. Got him middle of the season during a trade. He was able to come in, turn to a game record. I got a chance to see playoff Vaughn. Got a ring because of it. Got a lot of success. Wanted to re-sign him. Obviously, we went into the conversations with him. Obviously, Buffalo came better, and he ended up going to Buffalo. But it was certainly a good time for the Rams and both Buffalo having the ability to be with a guy like Vaughn. So you never know what these things can turn into. But I know what we're getting in that trade. The dog mentality, the guy that we talked about, the absolute edge setter, a universal pass rusher, a proven outside commodity within this league for the last couple of years.
I was looking at they had him on right and left. He's able to play both sides?
He's done a bunch in his career. Early on in Baltimore, I don't know if you remember, but he had some ability to move around. He had some ability to do a bunch of different things. He's a smart football player. He's uniquely smart in that way, very educated within the game, and he's been around a lot of really good coaches. I mean, obviously up there with the Patriots with Belichick, but even before that with the Baltimore Ravens and a bunch of things they do. Like I told you, I always stole from them guys anyway. So you're able to look at those guys, look at different things they do, some of the violence that they bring to the game. And then last year he was more of an edge player, but did have the ability to move around some of their packages. So you can see him moving around a bunch, doing a bunch of different things. So he's very versatile. He has real clear roles in his head. And he brings the juice, and we can't wait to get him out there in the grass.
It seemed like Braylon was being big on first and second down. Do you envision a similar thing for Matthew when he comes in?
I don't think you can compare the two players. You know, when you had Braylon, you were thinking about, like, him wanting to become a guy like Judon, you know? So, like, you want to bring that into, like, Braylon was kind of defining his role and what he was doing for our football team while he was establishing some other things that he probably could be able to do, which he'll continue to grow with, you know, after coming off the injury. But right now, you don't want to compare those two players. You're talking about a first-year player finding a role as opposed to a guy that's been established in this league that's absolutely dominated games. And all my Jet fans at home called me last night very excited that he was out of that division.
Coach, did you start looking at Judon as a serious acquisition target?
You know, Terry and Kyle and Ryan, I mean, they are constantly nagging me. You know, my phone rings at night. Now it is not anybody in this building other than those three with different opportunities and thoughts and constantly searching and evaluating and looking. So, you know, those things have been talked about amongst people and different types of people for a long time. And it's nonstop with those guys, and that's what I appreciate about their contributions to what we do. every single day. Like that is the kind of stuff, the obsessed people that you want to be around. And those three guys are certainly obsessed at what they do, and I love it, man. It's like every day you come to work, you just don't know what's going to happen. And it's that feel of obsession that I'm used to, that I've become accustomed to, where I came from, and these guys got it at a very high level.
Raheem, you just mentioned the Von Miller thing in LA.
Yes.
Because of that being such a positive experience for that team at that time, does that factor into like what you were all in about for this because you realized how productive that was for that particular team, and you see similarities here where this person can have that kind of impact?
That wasn't the end-all be-all, but for me, that was certainly a good experience. I can't say good. That was certainly a great experience that I had with Vaughn. And we're talking about two different players. We're talking about really two different scenarios. That one was traded at the beginning of the season, one was traded in the middle of the season. But, and different reasons they were traded for. But for me, when you go back, you just start talking about some of the positive things and how you can make it work, like we talked about, right? Like interviewing for head coaching jobs, right? When you go into that thing, you're telling yourself how you're going to make this work, what we're going to do. And you just had to communicate very open, honest, and clearly throughout the process amongst myself, with our group and their group. And it really gave us a good vision of what it could look like. And that's all you can do. That's the professional way of going about your business. And we got a very professional manner of handling things here that I really am appreciative of, along with our owner, right? Because you're always going to involve our owner and get his support on everything that we do. And I love the way he's able to support us and listen and be able to provide a lot of insight from all the long-term depth that he's had in this league as well.
I think that the general thought is that one elite pass rush guy can kind of change the dynamic for the other 10 people on the field. Is that your experience as a coach as well? Is that actually true?
It's usually two. When you talk about elite pass rushers and you're talking about having Grady and you're talking about having Onyemata, who's shown some elite traits at times, and then you add another guy with some other type of elite traits. And then, what justifies elite? Is the guy that has the potential to be able to do it, or is the guy that's actually done in the league, like a Grady, like a Onyemata, and like a Judon, be able to come and does? And then will you get that from somewhere else this year, right? Does that provide openings for AKs, Zoe Carter? Does that provide openings for JSW? Does that provide openings for other people, Caden Ellis walking into the box? And when you have those groups of people working together, rushing as one, I think that's what makes the elite talent. It was like working with a guy like Aaron Donald and be able to configure things around him really was helpful, right? When you're able to dictate terms on offense, because not often can you do that. From an offense standpoint, that's what you do every single snap, right? You come out, you look for premium look runs. If you don't like that run, you can can it to another direction. You can can it to a pass. You can do a lot of different things. On defense, when you get those known pass situations, when you can come out, you can set that rusher, and you can predict where that slide's going to go, that gives you better opportunities away from that great player. So when you have those two rushers and you have people that can win one-on-ones, man, you got really good insight on what they're going to do, and that provides a lot of great tools for Jimmy Lake, Jerry Gray, and some of those guys to come up with some really unique ideas in the lab with us, and getting a guy like Jock and Jay Rogers really creative and finding ways to do those things.
You said in the past that you feel this team has the capability to win now. What does this move say about that confidence in this building?
I don't know if this move moves that needle on how I felt. I mean, I felt that day to day. I talked to you guys at the stadium. We talked about what we wanted to do, and we talked about acquiring the quarterback and going out and getting Kirk Cousins was certainly a major part of that. But then you talk about adding pieces. And, make no mistake about this. The reason that you are to make some moves like this and be able to acquire people like this is because of what you've done at the quarterback position. And when you go get a guy like Kirk, people want to play with him, right? Because they feel they have a chance to win. And when you have a chance to win, like we talked about earlier in this process, that allows company to come. That allows people to want to come play with them. I seen it firsthand in L.A., and we watched it firsthand a couple years ago in Tampa. And it's like going against those guys, right? It's one of those things that just happen where people want to come play with those quarterbacks, and that's what's happening here.
Yeah, Coach, I was just going over some Jimmy's yesterday, and
That was fun, wasn't it?
yeah, but I'm confused if it's shoot awareness or shoot.
Shoot awareness.
SHO.
Well, we kind of spell it differently in football, like one of those things, but we are CHUTE. Shoot awareness.
Okay.
We got one of those things, and we talking about shoot awareness. Basically, I mean, you heard people describe it as keep the cup You've heard people keep. He's looked at me. He shook his head. No. Leverage tackles. But really, you got 21 guys on the field at all times, right? And you got 11 guys on defense, and there are people responsible for keeping stuff in the chute so you don't miss those tackles. And usually when you get a bunch of missed tackles, it's because the chute is broken, all right? The cup is broken. People brunch outside. I used to laugh. Gus Bradley used to be in charge of this. He came with the keep the cup version, and we always were chute awareness back in the day. But it all meant the same thing, right? And he always used to have this fullback breaking the cup. And I said, could you change that drawing to like a more dynamic player breaking the chute? Because I can't keep watching this fullback break the chute. And it's just chute awareness that he's talking about, and we kind of spell it unique. That's how I spell it. Jimmy might have a different interpretation of it, but that's what we're sticking with because I said it.
I was like, yes,
No problem. That's a good question, man. That's also another chute within the defense as well, so I can understand the confusion.
Yeah, Fitzgerald used to say they used to
Shoot
shoot
your
all
gun.
the bullets at Barry Sanders, so that's why.
Yeah, you shoot your gun through a gap, one gap football, and I got you.
Okay.
Good question.
I think we're done. Hey, could you break down Mike Hughes and where he's at in his game as he's competing for that job out there?
So he's been opposite primarily of AJ in our sub packages. He's been out there. Opposite of AJ in a lot of our base packages, along with him and Clark. They've been opposite. Those are the two guys really battling to be opposite of that position. Inside, primarily, we've had Alfred, but Mike Hughes has had really good offseason. He had a really good training camp. He had really good production. We have our good on good periods. He's had really good production. We've had our normal practice status, and all those guys are really out there competing and really firing me up. It's like one of those things when it's hard decisions on the coaches, that's usually a good sign.
He's been able to start at a lot of different places but not hold it. What's been the, everybody's seen the talent, but what's been the issue there and what might work for him this time?
That's probably a Mike Hughes question, because I can only answer for what I've seen and what he's done since I've been here. I know as a former first rounder that's been in a lot of places that I had a lot of high hopes for and love for throughout the draft process, and then getting a chance to come here and work with them. I've seen more of the positive sides of things than the negative, so I can't tell you what's held him back, but I can tell you what he's doing now. Showing up at ball productivity, being around the ball, being in the right position, doing some of those things, keeping the chute. But he's done a nice job of doing a lot of things here.
Coach, what can you say about a young player like Penix, and how excited are you to see him now that he got his feet wet in Miami, playing in Baltimore this weekend?
We'll have a different approach when it comes to the preseason. We haven't made all those decisions live, but I'm excited to watch him in practice today. Yesterday's practice, which Led alluded to, was nice. It was competitive. It was good on good. It was ones versus twos. It was twos versus ones. It was Mamba periods. It was situational football. It was him having to go through the whole process of what it feels like to get in and out of a huddle faster, and the timing with the officials here and doing all the things. And his development is based off of those things. His ability to watch Kirk also have ability to do that. So his development is coming along great. I'm fired up to watch him. I'm fired up to see him get his feet wet last week in a preseason game and go out there and really show well for himself. But I'm excited about today's practice ultimately, to be honest with you.
Raheem, to go back to Judon, I'm curious in your career if you've ever experienced acquiring a player of kind of this prestige and caliber at this point in the season specifically, because I'm kind of curious about how the dynamics, the emotional level.
I'm old. What kind of guy makes me think about
Well, it seems
this point of the season?
It seems rare that you would get a player that, of this caliber at this point, because usually you would acquire those guys through free agency or, in the off season or whatnot. I'm just curious about the team.
It's been pretty standard, since Jalen Ramsey with the acquirement of the trades of the players with the contract disputes and going to another team and figuring it out. If you ask Jalen Ramsey, he'll tell you he started it. So, but it's pretty unique with that. Tyreek Hill, I don't know exactly when those things happen, but these players, man, they move a little bit more, and it's the free agency and the contracts and the trades, all that stuff that comes involved. But I can't really think of a player that I've gotten this early. I guess Akilla Witherspoon last year coming in, late in the game at training camp and becoming a starter for us throughout the season and becoming really our best corner in LA last year would be the closest, different position. different point in his career in the league, but certainly an impact for us in LA. So I don't know that. We got Vaughn in the middle of the season, like we mentioned earlier, but I can't think of a trade 2 weeks into training camp or 3 weeks
It's
into
going to be kind of an emotional lift for the staff and the players even to see.
Have you walked around this building?
Oh, I
There is an emotional lift everywhere for everything, man. It's like, we signed Kirk Cousins. We go out and have a draft that we want. We get a future quarterback, and we come out and we're able to practice. We go grab Mooney. We grab Ray McLeod. We've been able to acquire all these different players, Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelly, people that's going out there being really productive for us. And to say I'm shocked that our front office did it again in that way, in that form, in that fashion, I'm not. And I'm not getting accustomed to it either. But I'm loving and loving the fact that they're obsessed with acquiring talent and trying to make us be the best version of ourselves.
Coach, kind of to piggyback off of that, is it fair to kind of characterize this as a direct reaction to Braylon Trice's injury, or do you think this is something that might have happened anyway?
Like I said, they have been talking about all types of scenarios for so long. It's hard to say that it's strictly because of Braylon Trice. The Braylon Trice certainly didn't hurt it. So it's like one of those things where you always have these conversations. You always. I can recall Les Snead walking in my office talking about the Von Miller thing, and this is right after we had just traded Kenny Young, our starting middle linebacker, and we had just got Odell Beckham signed, and he comes in and said, "Hey, I think we got a chance to get Von Miller." I said, "Get out of my face," So you just never. I didn't use those words either, but you just never know, right? So like when those things come up, you get the ready from whether it be Pace or Kyle Smith, and let's take a peek here. Let's start to look there. Let's start to evaluate, give a couple coaches. You always want different opinions, and you're ready to go at all times. And I think whether it's a day off or whether we're at work or whatever the case may be, I think all the guys are always on the ready to be ready to answer some questions and go through some things and find out scenarios and be able to acquire good people and good talent.
I think when you look at the pass rush over the last couple of years, it's struggled. And last year, even though it improved, it's still kind of, that's been a unit that has been circled as to improve on. What does making a move like this mean to that unit, and kind of why is it important for you as a head coach to fixate that on making it important to make sure they're firing on all cylinders?
So you really just start with, forget what happened in the past because none of that matters. So the thing you asphyxiate it with is making sure your pass rush can affect the quarterback, because that's a part of like winning football. So if you could find ways to affect the quarterback, which certainly Judon does, which certainly Caden Ellis does, which certainly getting back Grady does, Onyemata, AK, Carter, all these guys, they got to find out how to rush as one when they have the opportunity. So like, you got to affect the quarterback. You got to find ways to rush as one to get to the quarterback, to make sure he's off the spot, to make sure he's uncomfortable in the pocket, to make sure he feels a sense of urgency back there to go through his progressions and exhaust them, and giving us a chance to get there with the coverage as well, because all is tied together. So, I just think anytime you got a chance to affect that and help that, you're cooking with gas.
Hey, Coach, with all that you said today, I hear that, but I heard something yesterday during the tour of the facilities that I'd love your opinion on, and that is that space is the new commodity in the NFL, meaning giving players the room to do what they need to do. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
So I talked about that. I believe it was the opening press conference. I don't even know. I said it so many times, but you want to have the ability to have a player-led team. And like yesterday, you got this lively practice. It starts off with all this juice. You kind of hit a dead spot, and then all of a sudden somebody does something and uplifts the group, and it gets going again. And you like that to be done by your guys. And that's the only way you do that. You give them the space in the area to do that. And we're providing that space for those guys, right? And as a coach, our job is to identify problems. As a player, your job is to fix it. And when you have that type of mentality, that leads for player-led teams to have the spaces to be able to go out there and create their own atmosphere. And when they do that, that's what happens in the game when we're in the sidelines or we're in the stands or we're in the press box and we're looking down, they're creating space for themselves. And when they create that space for themselves, when they go on those white lines, that's a different deal. So, like, I love that whole deal. I love that you caught that. But for sure, man, you want to give these guys space to be able to go out there and really define the moment.
Anything else?
Yeah, Coach, throwback thing. I remember I was when the Packers got Reggie White, but
The first free agent.
it was 94.
You are old, lad. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm old. But no, I was talking to Coach
I was graduating high school. Sorry, go.
I was talking to Coach Herm, and he was. I was just trying to figure out what made you go every morning at 4:30 a.m. to meet him.
Herm Edwards?
Yes.
Because I had a job. So I was working at Hofstra,
Uh-huh.
and he opened the door up for me to be able to go into the Jets facility. And I wasn't going to miss an op, and also was not going to get my job not done. Right? So if you open up an op for me to get into the building, let me get there as early as I can, meet with him. Herm was a big workout guy, so he got his workout in. Then I was able to acquire some knowledge from him to be able to help out David Merritt, whatever I can help him out, whether it be hats, whether it be passing something out, drawings, whatever the case may be. And then I had to get back to my real job and do my real work, what was required. So if that required staying later there so I can get up early to be able to go do some of those things, it was the hunger, it was that obsession with football to learn, to grow. And I'm nothing but thankful for Herm allowing that to happen for me.
But the college kids aren't up at 4:30. Most are getting in at 4:30.
That sounds like their problem.
I got kind of a random one for you too, Coach. You're talking about Kirk Cousins being a quarterback, bringing him in, and then that opens up doors. Matt Ryan was kind of like the last franchise guy here. He had over 60,000 yards. What allowed him to be so prolific, do you think, Matt Ryan?
Matt Ryan?
Yeah, Matt Ryan.
He's-
It's a random question.
He's a G. I mean, to start there. Poise, leadership, attention to detail, knowing exactly who he was, exactly what he can do, finding ways to go execute it, and then not then at the last thing I remember is just not accepting anything but excellence. That was he had high standards, and he could be dead wrong. You better had been dead right to argue him down to make sure that you got your point across to him, because he's always going to do it in a respectful way, particularly with you guys. That's the fake Matt Ryan. I enjoy the real Matt Ryan. I enjoyed it for years, and Kurt is very, very similar when it comes to a lot of those things. So I can talk about Matt Ryan all day. You know, it's like talking about Julio. Like I could talk about those guys. Like those dudes are phenomenal. Roddy White. I could talk about those dudes all day. So.